Hi, I am here kind of doing a last minute video. I lost my last study to the great unknown of the computer world, and so I'm just putting this together again really quick. But in this study, I found a couple of things that that were remarkable to me. So one is that Jesus stayed with the Samaritans for 2 days when they asked him to. And that was interesting to me because he had such a limited time on earth. So the fact that he stayed there for 2 days when they asked him to was significant. And when I was giving this some more thought and some study, going back to the verse where Jesus tells the Samaritan woman that they need to worship in spirit and in truth, he recognized maybe their zeal as they came to believe that he was the Messiah, and he wanted to ensure that he spent some time solidifying their understanding of the truth of it. So started with the spirit and then sort of moved on into a deeper truth as well. So and through that, I think it kind of paints this really perfect picture of evangelism. That's kind of how things happen. They sort of go from something that is maybe more of a feeling, and it moves into an understanding and a truth. So on that note, I also thought the way the woman took her message back to the town was exactly that, evangelism, that she went back and had her own personal experience that she shared. People believed her based on her testimony, which people can't necessarily tell you that you didn't have a personal experience. So if you excitedly take that to someone and explain it to them, then that has its own value. But then they later came to have their own experiences and develop a personal belief and understanding, and hopefully even later then carry that on to their children and teach their children what they saw and heard and came to understand. So really that exponential and legacy style evangelism is, I think, what we're all striving for. And then the last thing that I found that I thought was the most remarkable was that I did a history of Samaria here, kind of in summary as we're closing out this study. And the one of the things I came across is that when the Jewish territories were taken over by the Assyrians, they deported a bunch of the Jews, which I think I might have alluded to in another study. But what I found out this week is that some of those Jews were deported to Nineveh. And I thought, well, that's really interesting because I recognized the name Nineveh from the story of Jonah. And I've always been interested by how readily people accepted Jesus' message, and I had always felt the same about Jonah. He goes and he says, you have 40 days to repent. And they are all like, yes, we repent, and they're tearing their clothes. And so I thought that was really fast. But I looked, there are some, maybe a small dispute about when the book of Jonah was written, but it was probably 280-ish years after those Jews had been deported there. So it's interesting to me that even though God was kind of punishing the Jews by scattering them everywhere, and it's not always it's definitely not a blessing from God that they were all over the place, but yet where he planted them, it's possible that those seeds from the Judaism that came there so long ago resulted in the redemption of all these Gentiles. So I really thought that was a cool parallel. And anyway, take a look at the rest of it. There's some other good stuff in there too, and I'll see you next week.